Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Mr. Alan Lazaros, and he is the founder and host of Next Level University. And I want him to tell us a little bit about himself, but I want him to explain what Next Level University is and what it's about. And we're going to have a great conversation. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Awesome. I can tell that the vibe of this show, it's interesting because you have like a deep, good vibe voice. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You're welcome. You're welcome. So Next Level University, the pun is intentional. So Next Level U, because no matter who you are or where you are or what your past has been, there's a next level version of yourself that you can aspire to. And so what Next Level University is about is basically our high level is we want to put self-improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet every single day, 7 days a week, completely free. And so Kevin and I, Kevin's my co-host, he's been on the show. He and I grew up without fathers. So when I was 2 years old, my father passed away in a car accident.
So sorry.
Thank you. And his father left. So he had his mother and his grandma who raised him, his mom and his Mima. And then I had my older sister who was 3 years older and my mom who raised me. And so we were both raised by women and two young men without male role models, really. And so now we want to be strong male role models for anyone out there who feels lost and directionless and who wants to try to aspire to something greater. Anyone out there who finds themselves in an environment that is not inspiring, an environment that is not aspiring to aspire to greater, an environment that's kind of just settling for less and you know, an environment that isn't inspiring and aspiring. So basically, yeah, that's what it is. Everybody who has an internet connection and a phone can listen to Next Level U and get to the next level version of themselves.
You know, and not taking away from women, because there are a lot of great, strong women out there. They do their best. I've got a few friends in my life that they're single parents. They do a heck of a job raising their children. But let's face it, children need a father, or at least a male role model to help bring them up. And I'm talking about real men that are going to raise them the right way, teach them respect and how to treat other people. So what you're doing, that's amazing. I'm glad that you've taken that stand and you want to help people. But let's hear about you personally. And please, I mean, like I told you before we started, you tell as much as you want. I'm not going to press you to get into anything personal if you don't want to, but I feel you have a great story to tell.
So thank you. And yeah, I there's very few areas in my life that I don't talk about at this point, just because it's interesting. You know, whenever I find an opportunity to try to help somebody, and I say this to my coaching clients as well, it's like I tell them anything I teach you, any systems we use, any of the habit trackers or whatever, like use that to help other people if you want. It would be like incongruent for me to coach you and help you in your life and then to say, no, don't teach anyone my frameworks or don't teach anyone. Like, to me, I think knowledge should be open source. I think at least that's what I aspire to. So when it comes to some of the vulnerable parts of my own life, I want to share them if they're going to help. Sort of like what you mentioned to me prior to us starting this interview. So again, I'm 33 years old, and each year I try to reread the book of my life, so to speak. And my girlfriend asked me before my 33rd birthday, best birthday of my life, by the way. But she asked me, she's like, what are you going to do differently in your 33rd year? Like, what are you going to do differently? And I was taken back because she always asks these incredible philosophical questions. And I'm like, and I thought a lot about it. And I said, I'm no longer going to go outside of alignment for anything. And for me, what that means is if it's not a 10 out of 10, I'm going to try really hard to eliminate it from my life. And so I didn't always know, I didn't always have as much clarity as I do now. So now it's like, what do you do in the world? It's like, well, I'm a coach and consultant. I'm a speaker and a trainer, and I'm a podcaster. And outside of those three things, I mean, the answer is just no, right? Unless you're my girlfriend or my dog or my immediate family. So I didn't always have that clarity though. And so we're born into this world and we don't always know exactly who we are yet. And we have to go explore and figure out who we're not. And I know you and I have both done a lot of that. So I was born into this world. And at 2.5 years old, my father passed away when he was 28 years old. So after that, my mom and my sister, so my sister was 6 at the time. And I had a stepdad from age 3 all the way to 14. When I was 14, my stepfather left.
Oh, no.
But I'll never forget this one. I actually posted about this recently. This one time when I was a little kid, my mom always lectured us. My sister and I still joke today about how like we'd rather be punished than lectured. In hindsight, it's actually very clear that I'd rather be lectured because now I get it. But back then it was terrible, right? But she would always explain to me why things are the way they are. I remember she sat me down one time when I was 7 years old. She said, Alan, you can be a CEO or you can be a farmer, and I'm going to love you either way. But if you're a CEO, you can wake up one day and just decide to be a farmer. It doesn't necessarily work the other way around. So she said, aim high and you'll have choices. And while I've made mistakes, while I've been imperfect, while I've made poor choices, I've always aimed super, super high. My original dream was to be a Fortune 50 CEO like Steve Jobs. I was a computer engineer, straight A's in high school, got my master's in business, went into corporate, started a couple companies and job hopped a lot as well in corporate, worked for a bunch of different tech companies. Eventually, I end up at a company called Cognex, which is an industrial automation company. And I started a little inside sales team there of sales engineers. And then I got promoted to outside sales. And my territory was Western New England. So it was Vermont, it was Western Mass, and it was Connecticut. And it was 2015. And I'm up in New Hampshire and I'm not working. This is like a Friday night and I'm playing Call of Duty. It's a video game with my little cousin. My little cousin's 17 at the time. I'm 25 at the time. And at this point, mind you, I had achieved so much of what people deem as success. I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I have a beautiful girlfriend. I have corporate friends. I have college friends. I have high school friends. I mean, I was invited to every party. I had everything that I think people think they want when they're young. And I had everything that I thought I wanted for sure. I had way more money than I knew what to do with. I was getting $12,000 checks like every other week as 25-year-old kid. And I lived at home. So I had like very low expenses. So I was just banking all that money. I paid off 84 grand worth of debt in 2014. All my debt was gone from school. And so I'm 25 or 26 at the time. This is back in 2015. And I'm up in New Hampshire with my little cousin. He and I are playing Call of Duty. We decide to go to TGI Fridays. We're not drinking. We're not partying. Nothing crazy. We're just going to TGI Fridays. It's a really dark winter night. And 2015 was like an awful winter. And so the snowbanks were so high in New Hampshire that they were covering the signs this night. No. So there was a yield sign and this 3-way intersection. And I was supposed to yield and I didn't. And so I end up on the wrong side of the road. I'm looking down at the GPS. I look up and I saw what I thought at the time was a Mack truck. So it actually ended up being a lift kitted pickup truck. There's a lot of those in New Hampshire, luckily, but like I thought it was a Mack truck. So I'm 10 feet from this thing and I'm doing at least 25 miles an hour. And the pickup truck's coming at me. And I thought for sure that was it for me. The only way to describe it is like that moment of like, there's no way we survived this. So fortunately, both airbags deployed. I was driving a 2004 Volkswagen Passat. I used to literally call this car the tank. I bought it for $5 grand cash. It was a German engineered steel car, older car, both airbags deployed. And it was like very heavy car. I loved that car. And in many ways, that car actually saved my life, which is awesome. So after that car accident, both airbags deployed. My cousin hurt his knee. I hurt my face on the airbag, but physically we're okay, which is awesome. Now, in my speeches and stuff, I usually show the picture of my car because my car is absolutely beyond totaled. And I've seen the pictures of my father's car. So when my father was 28, he died in a car accident. And so I'm 26 at the time, and I'm just absolutely rattled. So physically, I'm okay, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I am completely like midlife crisis level shaken. And so I'm sitting in an armchair drinking whiskey, questioning my entire life. I'm questioning who I am, who I've become, the choices I've made. I'm questioning my drinking habit. I'm questioning my career choices. I'm questioning, everything, and so I now live by this simple quote that I can give to your listeners or your viewers. And this is something that I still find is more and more profound as I grow in my life. You can't see the stars during the day. They're always there, but sometimes it takes the darkness to see clearly that which we simply could not within the light. And so all of us have had that experience of being in emotional pain or a dark place where we notice something that we never noticed before. Because the stars are there, the truth is all around us. You just can't always see it until you're in the dark. And when you're in the dark, sometimes you see that bright light that was always there, that person, that place, that thing, or that idea. So there's two bright lights that I saw when I was in this emotional and spiritual pain of regret. Regret was really the feeling. And now go figure. So the first one was Tony Robbins' TED Talk. So regardless of what you think of Tony, his TED Talk is unbelievable. Best TED Talk of all time, in my opinion. Second thing, I found a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. A woman named Bronnie Ware, she's from Australia, and go figure, right? I'm in all this regret, and I notice a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, and I almost just died, right? So there's no coincidence here, very synchronistic. And so in many ways, that car accident saved my life because I found this book. She worked in hospice for 8 years. And she thought her job was to take care of the terminally ill, when her real job, she realized later, her calling, I should say, was to listen. She heard, I wish, I wish, I wish, because she had all these people reflecting on their life and they're projected terminally ill. They're going to die. So they're reflecting on their life and they have all these regrets coming up. There's good stuff too, but there's a lot of regret, right? A lot of guilt, shame, remorse, but regret. So she writes this book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, because she noticed these common patterns. 8 years, she's like, everyone has the same regrets. Like, what's going on here? The number one regret of the dying is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. And so, like many of us in my young life, I was guilty of that. I aimed high. I got straight A's. I was very academically inclined. I was very smart. I had pure intentions. I put in massive effort. But I wasn't following that inner compass as much as I had hoped, as much as I could have or maybe should have, because I was never taught about regret. And so to me, the two best teachers on this planet, and this is again at 33, I now understand this. I didn't understand this for the first 30 years. Two best teachers on the planet, regret is number one, and fulfillment is number two. I believe that fulfillment is the soul's recognition of alignment with its highest calling, with its highest potential and greatest level of contribution. And so fulfillment, I'm writing a book right now called Optimizing for Fulfillment. But the best teacher in the world, I actually think, is regret. Because when you have regret, I don't want you to live there. I don't want you to beat yourself up when you're already down, but I do want you to learn. Like when I was in that regret after that car accident, that's the best teacher in the world. What do I actually regret? What would I do differently had I known what I know now? Not so I can beat myself up and say I'm a horrible person. No, but so that I can make the changes now to make my future brighter. And so just like that original question my girlfriend asked me, what are you going to do differently in your 33rd year? I think we should all be asking ourselves those questions, not just yearly, but daily. And so to this day, I have a flashcard in my pocket. It's actually right over there. It's not in my pocket right now. It's right over there. But it has all 5 of the top 5 regrets of the dying on it. And I've actually interviewed Bronnie Ware, so I got to meet her, which was so cool. Wow. I interviewed her 4 years later. I was the biggest fanboy of all time on this, because it was like I was living from this place. But that's what I would give to your listeners is, at this point at 33 years old, this is what I understand. No one out there can tell you what fulfillment feels like and looks like. Only you know what's fulfilling to you. And so try to align with that and reflect on your past and your present and say, okay, what am I doing or not doing that I do kind of regret, if I was honest with myself? And then what can I learn from that so that I can stay in alignment? And so now I podcast, I coach, I speak, I have 20 plus clients. We have, hundreds of thousands of listeners all over the world. But after that car accident, it was just, okay, let's reinvent. Let's start from scratch and let's build. And I don't mean start from scratch because obviously I took these skills with me, but like, let's reinvent who I am. Let's reinvent my future. Let's redesign. And ever since then, I've just been all in on self-improvement.
You are blessed to have that kind of lesson at an early age. Myself, being that I'm grandparent age now, I have so many regrets looking back on my life, and it's sad that it took this long to realize what I really wanted to do in life. And I'm going to bring up this point that you do things in life that people expect you to do. It's like you're trying to please everyone else. And please, I hate talking about myself, but these are the only examples I can give out. I have a relative and I love him to death. But, when I wanted to change my career, mind you, I had been working in public works for nearly 20 years at that point, but I wasn't happy. And yes, I was a supervisor. I was making decent money, had a truck I could take home and, the whole 9 yards, but it wasn't enough. And he was telling me, oh, you got great benefits and you need to stay there and do this, do that. And so I felt like, oh, well, I guess maybe he's right. And it took me to the point of, I have a spinal condition. The bones and the discs are deteriorating. And so I had to give up my career because of it. And it took that to realize what I wanted to do in life. And even when I told him I wanted to move, no, you don't want to move there. You're not going to like it. It costs too much money, blah, 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 blah. I did it anyway. And, I used to live near Houston. Now I live near Austin. I'm around, I have beauty around me, nature, the whole 9 yards. Never been more calm and happy in my life. But it takes sometimes tragedies like what you went through before we realize this is not what I want to do. This is what I do want to do. Now, I want to take this a little bit further. Did you find that you had to let go of certain people in your life in order to achieve the successes that you have?
Yeah. And I appreciate your honesty and the explicitness at which you describe, even though you love that person, you can understand in hindsight how detrimental some of those things. A lot of people don't understand the power of their words, and they don't understand how much wind they can take out of people's sails. Something as simple as my guidance counselor said I'd never get into MIT, and in hindsight, it's like, oh, of course I could have. I got 1 B+ in all of high school. Like, I didn't even apply because I figured my guidance counselor knew more than I did. And that was a mistake. And so, and that doesn't mean I have a bunch of like, oh, the school I went to was wonderful. Right. So I think it's important. One thing I want to shout you out for is the fact that you owned that, like, you wish that you had known some of these things earlier, because I think a lot of people have a weird relationship with regret where they don't want to say they have any regrets because, well, if I didn't have that happen, then I wouldn't be here. It's like, yeah, I understand, but there was a way to be more proactive.
Yes.
We could have read more books, and we could have taken better care of ourselves, and we could have had better habits, and we could have said no to those bad influences earlier. Right. And it relegates responsibility when you just say, oh, well, it is what it is. And so I'm really proud of you for sort of owning some of the bad poor choices or less than ideal choices that you've made, because that's why you've started making better ones. That's the exact reason. That's what I've found anyways with coaching people all over the world. I don't care what country you're from or cultural background or color. It really comes down to like, what is your relationship with your past poor choices, so that you can learn from them, so that you can make new choices starting today for a brighter future. And until you own, that's what I've found, until you own some of the maybe less than ideal parts of your past, then you can't really construct a brighter future, because you're just kind of running those same cycles and those same patterns. You got to be a breaker of those patterns. So to answer your original question, though, it was basically, did I have to let go of certain people in order to achieve my dreams? Kyle, this is probably the hardest part of having dreams.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had tons of corporate friends. I had tons of college friends. I had tons of high school friends. I remember one kid in college literally came up to me, and I was in a fraternity. There was 12 fraternities on campus, and I was really, really smart, but I also was very extroverted. And one of my friends said, "You are hands down the most popular kid on this campus. Everybody knows your name." And at the time, I took that as a really good thing, and I really I liked that. I enjoyed that. And in hindsight, I realized that was very detrimental, I think, to my own personal growth, because I unintentionally was too spread thin. I was everything for everybody, instead of, I was what I now refer to as a wandering generality instead of a meaningful specific. And that's a Zig Ziglar thing, so I don't want to take credit for that. But I now think I'm a meaningful specific and not a wandering generality. And because of that, I actually have, your original question was like, did you have to let go of certain people? So I'll tell you this: every corporate friend, every college friend, and unfortunately every single high school friend except for Kevin is no longer a large part of my life.
Yeah.
Now, I saw one of my high school friends, Nick, love him to death, awesome guy. I saw him in the gym, ran into him, and we are nothing but friendly and like laughs and jokes, and we grew up as kids, so it's like that wonderful nostalgia. But like we don't hang out and talk about goals and dreams. Like, he's not coming on the podcast type of thing, right? So he's doing his own thing. And I still actually, it's fascinating. I remember at one point I said, I'm going to be in 11 wedding parties. How am I going to be? I'm going to be the best man in like 5 weddings, and I'm going to be in 11 wedding parties. Like, how am I going to do all these weddings? That was it before my car accident. Now I honestly won't be in any. I won't be in any. And the reason I say that for your viewers and for your listeners is that this is what I've found to be just unequivocally, whatever verb you want to put in, or adjective rather, like, this is true. If you want to aspire to greater, you will have to let go of the old persons, places, things, and ideas. If you want new persons, places, things, and ideas, you have to let go of old persons, places, things, or ideas. And maybe they'll circle back and grow with you, but not until after you let go. And that's the wisdom. Even something as simple as I had to say goodbye to my ex-girlfriend in order to meet the love of my life. Like, there is no other way. And until I had the courage to say, no, this relationship is not aligned, which it wasn't, not even a little bit in hindsight. And then you don't create that space to go out and find something that is aligned. And so still to this day, it's yin and yang, it's in and out. It's the law of trade-offs. It's, I have 20 clients, but there's a couple of them that are starting to feel a little bit misaligned. And I am honest with myself of like, okay, I'm cutting it off at 20 clients. If someone else more aligned comes in, I'm going to have to say, listen, I'm sorry, but my services are going to be reallocated over to this person who clearly wants it greater than you do. And I'm always doing that, out with the old, in with the new, because that is the only way to evolve.
Yeah. The way I look at it, and I'm a big believer in God. When you remove certain things from your life, God will fill that void, and with the right things and the right people. And I want the audience to understand, it's not that we think we're better than anybody else. It's just when certain people in your life, they're still stuck in that same mode, they will hold you back. And my wife says, you show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. I've got people, and this is another way I stated, I love them from afar. I would still do anything for these folks, and because I do care so much for them, but I don't associate with them on a daily basis like I do with other people. And the reason being is you want to grow, and you want to align yourself with people that have dreams and ambitions. Mind you, I've got people that I've had in my life as friends for 40 years, but I can't hang out with them because they still think they're in high school. They still want to party and drink and do drugs and all these things. And that doesn't benefit me in any way. Those are the things that held me back, that kept me from having a relationship with my children and my family. And unfortunately, you do have to let go of certain things and certain people.
Yep.
And I don't know. I can rant about that for a long time, but please go on with your story. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Good for you is what I was going to say.
Oh,
Yeah, good for you for saying no. And that's the thing too, right? Like, you don't do drugs and you don't do alcohol, and that's a positive choice. And what's fascinating is that you've probably been made fun of for that, or attacked for that, or pressured against that. But it's like, anyone with any sort of intelligence would know that that's the more positive choice.
yeah.
And so it's just fascinating. But I think that the one thing that you sensed that I wanted to say is, I think that I used to think as a kid that I had to like go out and so to be a Fortune 50 CEO, and I used to think I had to go chase that.
Mm-hmm.
What I now understand is that I have to become the type of person who is that. And so I want to illuminate something for your viewers or listeners that I think is really powerful, that I realized. Every movie, every book, every one of us has 4 parts to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a victim, there's a villain, there's a hero, and there's a guide in all of us. And this is what I've come to understand. And The Lion King is my favorite movie. And one of the reasons, of course, is obviously, Mufasa dying at the beginning, represents a lot of what my life has been, stepdad, scarred, whatever. And so there's a lot of parallels. And by the way, I didn't know why that was my favorite movie until in my 30s. And I was like, oh, my girlfriend again enlightened me of like, oh, don't you understand why that's right? Your favorite movie. So anyways, okay, the victim is very clearly Simba, because Uncle Scar is trying to convince him to go to the elephant graveyard. And, Scar is very manipulative, yes, and insecure, and wants to be king and all that. Mufasa is the guide, trying to teach Simba about the circle of life and how the grass and the antelope and how it all works together, nature, how nature works, which, whether you call it the universe or nature or God, like, I think that's sort of nature is sort of my term for it. And then you've got the victim Simba, you've got the villain Scar, and then you've got the guide, which is Mufasa. The moment that the hero comes into the story is when Simba finds Nala, and then Simba finally decides to go back and face his past.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all can be the hero of our own story. And I just got the chills talking about this. But we have to understand, who is the villain. Is it society telling you can't do this thing, you can't move, or you can't, or you're supposed to work at a job until you're 60 or whatever? Is it a relative that makes you feel bad when you try to carve your own path? Is it a villain inside of you who keeps saying you're going to stop watching porn and you keep doing it, or whatever it is, right? So where are you being a victim, and where are you being suppressed by a villain, either inside of you or outside of you?
Right.
And then how can you identify why you're being a victim, and then take responsibility, and then in your imagination, go into that brighter, aspiring future. And then that's when you become the hero. You become the hero when you finally decide, like, enough is enough. Like when you finally decide, I'm not going to drink anymore. It took me 5 years to quit drinking. I kept falling off. Weddings, 2 weddings got me, like, I'll tell this story briefly too. I was like years into quitting drinking, so proud of it. I went to a wedding with an old college couple, and I was like, I'll just have one, right? 1 turns to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Wedding was awesome, lots of fun, tons of pictures, like had a blast. Ended up at an after party. Then there was an after party in my hotel room. And at like 3 a.m., someone came in with a trash bag full of beers that we called them Beer Santa. And it's like, that's what one drink can eventually end up with.
Yep.
And to be completely transparent, the whole night was a blast. But here's the thing that you don't see. The next day, I'm in a parking lot in Providence, Rhode Island, freezing cold, can't find my car. And when I finally do find my car, I'm puking out of the side of it. And I feel like a homeless bum in Providence, walking the streets all disheveled and hungover and puking outside of my car at 7 a.m. or whatever. And it's like, see, that's the part of the story that people don't see. If you see all these happy people at the bar, remember that might be the happiest part of their life. You're not seeing the hangovers. You're not seeing the can't wake up. You're not seeing the drive to work, dreading their life, right? So it's a little bit challenging for us to know what the right choice is when we have all these signals on social media of like the parties and the boats and the yachts and we think that that's going to be fulfilling, and it just never is, right? It just isn't.
Right.
It just never is. And so virtue is virtue and vice is vice. And the virtuous path is when you decide not to be a victim and become the hero. And usually it's when you get the right guide. So Bronnie Ware was a guide to me when I was in a dark time. Tony Robbins' TED Talk was a guide to me that got me to wake up. And hopefully many listeners of this show consider you a guide, and they've become the hero of their own story. And then eventually when you get through those challenges, now you can be a guide.
Yes.
I have a person on our team. His name is Brandon. We have a 13-person team, and he just quit drinking, and he's 10 days in. And he came to me, texted me, he said, hey man, I've never really talked about this much, but like, I need your help. I want your help. I want to quit drinking. I want to say goodbye to this thing. Like, I'm just ready. And so we had this hour-long conversation about it. And now he's 10 days in, and he told the whole team that he's 10 days in, and he's excited and he's celebrated. And it's like, I couldn't be a guide to him unless I first became the hero of my own story.
That's true.
And overcame that. I'm coming up on 900 days. And so, that's really what I want to give to your listeners is take responsibility. Where are you being a victim? We're all being a victim somewhere.
Yeah.
There's villains everywhere. Don't be naive, right? There are wolves in sheep's clothing. You got to be careful.
This is true.
And anyone with, my childhood was very challenging as well. And adversity can be your advantage once you decide to create a brighter future and let it drive you and motivate you rather than let it keep you down.
Well, I want everyone to know there is hope. And this is my point of saying that, there is a small minority of people that are on social media and all these things that they've created this whole new victimhood. And I because they have such a large voice, I think people think there's more people that are involved in that whole victimhood thing, and they were trying to make a career out of it. They make it like they're supposed to have all these things in life, that it's just meant to be. That you're supposed to give me this, supposed to give me that. It's like children expect their parents just to give them cell phones. And I know some parents is like, no, you're not getting one. You don't need it. And I want people to get away from that victim mentality. I could easily say, oh, please feel sorry for me and please take care of me because, I was victimized as a child and, I've got this disease and no, those are just bumps in the road. You've got to get past them. You've got to, like you said, become the hero of your own life get past that victimhood. Once you get past that, then you start to flourish. Then you start to achieve. Do you want something just given to you? Because if it's just given to you, you don't appreciate it. It's those things you have to work for. That's the things that you nourish. I mean, how many children you see, they get every freaking toy and all these clothes and all this stuff, and it just gets tossed in the corner, or it gets broken, and they just don't care. And you've got other children that don't have very much in life, and they're like, but I wanted that toy, or I wanted those clothes. And how do you approach that? How do you look at that when somebody's got everything and doesn't care, and you have very little and you care for the little bit that you do have? So get past the victimhood, become your own hero. I love that story. I love that analogy. I don't think I could have said it any better, and I appreciate you doing that.
I appreciate those kind words. It's you got me emotional with the kids who don't have much thing. We every single Christmas, so we have a Books for Babes initiative where we basically we buy books for kids who aren't gonna get presents on
amazing.
Christmas, and we wrap them in. I'm gonna end up crying probably. My girlfriend's idea, but we wrap them in recyclable newspapers, and we deliver the boxes. So,
sharing is probably one of the best things you can do in your life. When they say it's better to give than receive, there's a reason behind that. As a kid, you love getting all these gifts and all these things, and that's great and wonderful. But to me, I get more joy when I'm able to give to other people. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but last year, I was able to come into some money, and I'm granted it wasn't like a fortune or anything, but it was more money than I'm used to having. And I told my wife, I said, this was a blessing, and in order to appreciate it, we need to share that with other people. And so my daughter found 3 families in our community that they weren't going to really have a Christmas, and so we went shopping and bought the kids stuff that was on their list, and all these things. It's amazing is that when you have children that don't have a whole lot, you think, they want the Xbox or the video games and all this stuff. No, some of them, it's like they wanted these slippers, or they wanted a blanket and things like that. And to see them get overjoyed over something like that. I mean, how many of us, we got socks or underwear for Christmas, and we're like, really? But these kids were really, they were very happy and joyous to get it. And one of my friends, he's become a very successful architect and home builder. And his success was that he got on a website, and it was where you practically give your services away for nothing. And I'm like, how do you make money just giving it away for nothing? Well, what happened was somebody liked his design so much that they went and they told someone else. And before he knew it, he got a multi-million-dollar deal designing homes because of giving something away for nothing.
Yeah.
And you're giving away something for nothing, and it's starting to flourish. And do you have like a success story that you could maybe tell about someone that's gone or has listened to you or gone through your program?
So many, and it's unbelievable. And so I have a folder. It's called My Deepest Why.
Mm-hmm.
And I have every message saved. I have screenshots of messages, audios, videos of anyone who's ever reached out saying that I've changed their life. And there's thousands in there now, which is really cool. I'm flourishing at such a high level now that it's actually hard to keep up with,
Wow.
which is so cool. But at the beginning, it was like, I started with 3, right? Three people. One of them is my assistant now. Her name's Amy. She messaged me on Snapchat saying that I inspired her and changed her life. It's like, I still have that original message. And now she's been working with me for 3 years, and you probably talked to her. I think she might have emailed you or something.
Yes, she did.
She did. Okay, awesome. So that's the thing that we don't realize is like Amy messaging me on Snapchat, having never met me, saying that my fitness journey was inspiring her and motivating her. Ended up me and her talking. She ended up going to the mall with Kevin to fear chase, is what we called it, fear chasing. They were both scared of talking to strangers, so they went up to stores. Did he tell the story on the podcast?
I don't remember if he told me this one or not.
Okay.
Go
I'll
ahead.
tell it briefly. So he was at the mall with Amy, and first he texted me saying, I don't want to go. Like, I'm scared too. And this is so many years ago, 5 years ago. So it's like wild. But basically he said, I don't want to go. All 4 of my tires got slashed. I can't go. Just joking. But he's like, I don't want to go. And I'm like, dude, you got to do this. You got to lead. And so he goes there. They talk to strangers in stores. The first thing they did to fear chase, because they were afraid to talk to strangers, they dealt with social anxiety, was just go up into a store and ask about a product. Super simple. By the end of the story, they ended up, before they left the mall, they ended up riding those little zoo animals like around the mall. And to this day, I still think this is something that holds people back more than anything, is a fear of judgment. And so that's all they were doing. They were teaching their brain how to not fear judgment. 2 adults riding zoo animals around the mall. He has a video of it that he shows in his speeches. But Amy's probably the best success story that I have, but we have hundreds of Amy's at this point. And the reason why we give, and I've actually had people say, you guys like give away so much for free. Like, why do you do that? But what's fascinating is that we have, just like your architect friend, we just surpassed the $300,000 in gross revenue per year mark. And we're at the very beginning, and that's growing. I mean, we just surpassed $250,000 2 weeks ago, and we just surpassed 300,000, projected out annually. Like, we're going to be a multi-million-dollar company within the next year and a half. Honestly, probably by mid 2022, we'll surpass the $1 million per year mark. But we're giving away a lot for free, but we've done it consistently. We've got 800 episodes, but that giving and that value can catch fire.
Yes.
And profitability is not a bad thing as long as you do it. Like for example, you coming into that money, that's a good thing for everybody, as long as you're a good person, right? You appreciate it. You probably put it into good, valuable things, and you give it to the community. Like, I think that as long as money will amplify whatever you are. And so I help all my clients become more successful. But if they're a good person, I can't even tell you how many times I've said, like, I'm not going to work with someone. Like, there's a couple people that I won't work with just because deep down, I just think they're not aligned with my core values at the end of the day. And I don't want to like turn this into like attack them, villainize me. Like, no, I'm just,
of course
they're not aligned with my core values and my core aspirations. But at the end of the day, we're helping people who want to be better become better. And then everything in their life starts to flourish: their health, their relationships, and their financial success as well. Manifestation is a skill. I said I wanted 20 clients 4 weeks ago, and I needed 5 more, and I just did it. But I think it's a skill. It's a skill that I've been developing my entire life, right? So, hopefully that answers your question. There's been a lot of successes. Because I want to tie it back to consistent virtue, consistent hard work.
Yes, that's
hard work is a virtue. Yeah,
that's kind of hard for some people to understand. I mean, you have to put work into it, and you have to have some kind of morals to be a success. Yeah, you could be some underhanded, schemer and make money, but are you really successful? Are you looking over your shoulder that eventually one day it's going to fall apart because you're doing something wrong, when you don't have to? This is another thing. We had talked about, you did a live session talking about your spouses and what you can do to fill their cup.
Yeah.
To be successful in a marriage or any relationship is to be honest. If you don't lie, you don't have to backtrack. You don't have to cover up anything. Just be honest.
Yeah.
And even if that honesty might seem hurtful to someone, it's better to be honest and, to just don't do anything wrong to begin with.
Yeah. Don't do anything that you would want to be dishonest about, it's funny.
But unfortunately we're getting to the end, and can you tell us, number one, how do our audience find you, and what services that you offer? And I don't know if you can talk about prices or anything over the podcast, but please, I'm gonna hand it over back to you.
Appreciate it. In terms of prices, totally transparent. But I don't think that pitching my services is probably the best play. I think if anyone is intrigued or inspired or feels lost, I think that Kevin said this to me recently. He said, Alan, you're the human and business optimization guy. And I'm a computer engineer by trade. I'm the guy who like could party all night and get straight A's on all the calculus tests, right? I was that guy. And now I've leaned into the virtuous side of that. Mm-hmm. So I'm the human, team, and business optimization guy. And so if you feel directionless in your life, I have the tools to help you. So reach out. The way in which you can reach me, you can literally Google my name and everything will come up, or you can find us at Next Level University. It's spelt exactly like it sounds, Next Level University. And we'll come up on every podcast platform. We'll come up on YouTube. And in the show notes of every episode is my contact information, my email, my Instagram, all that. Please connect. Between my assistant and I, we literally get back to everyone. And we hope to keep that up forever. Obviously, that's gotten more challenging, which is awesome. But please reach out genuinely if you feel directionless and you want some more structure and some more discipline. Discipline is a virtue. Structure is a virtue. Aspiration is a virtue. Hard work is a virtue. If you want more of those virtues in your life, I am definitely your guy. If you want to maximize your potential, I'm definitely your guy. If you don't want to maximize your potential, I've actually started saying this, I am definitely not your guy. I'll just be a pain in your ass. Pardon my French. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, Alan, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate you and Kevin. I take a little bit from everybody that I have on my show, and I'm definitely going to keep your words in near and dear to me. You're an inspiration. And to everyone out there that's watching or listening, doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different outcome, that is the literal definition of insanity. So sometimes we have to look for other ways, and some things you may have been believing for a long time aren't necessarily true. So if you want to become successful, listen to these guys' podcasts, reach out to them and see what they can do to help you to become a success. And so if you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. I hope you subscribe and you come back. For those that are regular, thank you for your support. We're growing just so quickly right now, and I appreciate that. Until the next one, please, everyone, take care. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network